Most European pension systems cannot be trusted. And even in the best case scenario, you will have to be building your own pension wealth, but even that creates its own risks. I will talk about those in a second, especially in Finland, how when you become a pensioner yourself, the government might come and take your pension wealth away from you. That is something that is right now even discussed quite openly in politics. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you the minimum thing you must do for your own pensions, why most European pension systems cannot be trusted, and of course I will tell you what is the best thing for you to do for your own pensions. And as a bonus, I'm gonna tell you how many European pension systems, how easily they could be fixed, like that of Finland, and why they won't do it. And also I'm gonna mention something about politics, even though this is not a political channel exactly. So this is the situation that many of us Europeans are right now, and I speak for Finland. So if you are right now 45, you have 20 years to the age of 65, which can be considered to be the actual pension age. And especially if you're younger than that, you are in a really bad situation. You see, at the same time, you need to be taking responsibility of your own pension wealth, but at the same time, you must be paying a ton of pension money that goes into the pockets of the current pensioners. So this is quite the situation. So basically, you need to do the work that the previous generation should have done, because most European pension systems cannot be trusted, like that of Finland, because they are finance organizations where the older pensioners are making profits out of the younger income earners' expense. And that system is not made to last. So even in the best case scenario, especially the younger you are, the less you are going to receive and the more you are going to pay. And this, by the way, is going to be a great social injustice in Europe in the future. And by the way, if you are watching this video, well, I'm sorry to say, you cannot go back. In the future, you cannot say that I didn't tell you that this is going to happen. So why you cannot trust this pension system is simply that you cannot trust that the younger generations are going to be continuing to pay the profits of the older pensioners, because the burden is going to end up being simply too high. So even in the best case scenario, your pension is going to be rather small. Unless the pension systems collapses completely. You see, the people who defend these pension systems, they cannot make promises for the younger generation's deeds. That is simply impossible. So, what you must be doing as a bare minimum is that you have to build at least some kind of a personal pension wealth by the time you go into retirement. Now, on my Finnish video, I did give the example of Finland right now, and I guess I could give it here also, but it varies greatly in the countries of Europe. But on my Finnish video, I said that if you were to become a pensioner right now, you should have a minimum of 200,000 euros invested in mutual funds. Because if you use the 4% rule, and I have a separate video about that, with the 4% rule, it would come to slightly less than 700 euros per month, slightly less that you could take each month without endangering your capital. So after taxes in Finland, it would be slightly less than 500 euros. And in Finland, the average pension is just about 2,000 euros plus taxes. So if you were to have 200,000 right now invested in mutual funds on your retirement, it would amount just about less than 500 euros per month. And really, that is not much. That is not much. You see, if you have, for instance, if you're 35 and you have 30 years to become 65, you have 30 years to go, well, with the 8% market growth, you would have to invest 140 euros per month. And for most, at least in the Western countries, that is not quite much. And like I said, 200,000 invested money on your pension age, yeah, it doesn't buy you much. And that is by minimum. And of course, the best thing you should be doing is that you should be, during your working age, building so much wealth that you could retire whenever you want, meaning to become financially independent. That is the best thing, and that all of us should be aiming for, especially in the Western world. But also what you don't want is that you want to build enough wealth that you will be able to pay your own bills when you become a pensioner. That you don't want to become a financial burden to others at your pension age. But in Europe, at least in Northern Europe, also Germany, that is completely unheard of. Can you imagine that? It is unheard of that somebody would want not to become a financial burden to others at their pension age. Anyway, so the minimum thing, I would say, roughly speaking, that you must at least be doing is that you should be investing at least a minimum of 5% of your gross salary during your working age. And 5%, that is not much. And what that 5% will buy you if you invest that each month from your gross salary is that even if these pension systems do stay around, your pension will be small, and that 5% will give you just a slightly better pension. So that is the minimum thing that you should be doing. So that was the main point. But now, what about the risks? Well, especially in Finland, what finance people don't like to admit, that in all honesty, there are serious risks in building your own wealth in the Republic of Finland. And it goes like this, and I'll try to make this video not to be too long. So there is a genuine risk that if you build even a modest pension wealth, well, when you become a pensioner, the government might take it away from you. And it goes like this, that when you are a pensioner, the government will provide you with some elderly care service. The government will provide you a service, the same service that everybody else gets from the government, whether they ever worked a day in their life, paid any taxes or not. You get the same service, except the government is going to charge you money for it. but the person who is completely poor gets it for free. And this is something that the Finnish politicians are talking about even right now. And I'm willing to bet that this is also a genuine risk in other European countries, especially the welfare states. All right, enough of that. So one way in the case of Finland, just how easily the system could be fixed, just like that. Well, in the case of Finland, right now, the pension cost of the income earner is over 24%. And that's quite a lot. So, but that 24%, I mean, more than that, what happens is that basically 90% of it goes to the pensioner's pocket, and only 10 or 11% goes to actually to pension wealth. It is basically a pyramid scheme. So really the only thing they would have to do is to change those numbers around, that when there is that almost 25% pension cost, that 90% would go to pension wealth for the future pensioners, and only 10% would go to the pockets of the current pensioners. Well, that would fix it for the future pensioners. But of course, they would never agree to that, because then the older pensioners would have to pay for their own mistakes of not making profits out of the cost of the younger generation's labor. And that is not going to happen. And one reason is, the last thing on this video is that in most European countries, probably all of them, especially the welfare state, the people who are, like on this channel, determined to build their own pension wealth, to actually take responsibility of their own wealth building. In Europe, that's quite rare, by the way. So people like us, we don't actually have any political representatives on politics. At least in Finland, there are no political parties that would dare to question the current pension system. Why? Well, probably because pensioners are the single largest group of voters. So we really don't have any political representatives. So basically what we would need to do is to somehow, I don't know, found our own political party. But that is a topic for probably another channel. But that was this video. And this is Radio Heikkala. Thank you for watching.